It's Eric and Dr. Sakeisha, and we want to welcome you to the Marriage by Design webinar. And I'm sure that you may be wondering exactly who is this for. I mean, you as a couple, you might be like, say, James and Karen. They're 32 and around 27 years old. It's their first marriage. They have 2 kids, full-time jobs, and they're heavily involved in the church, and they have money apps on their phone, and they've done everything. They've tried budgeting forms, they've been to classes, and for some reason, at the end of the month, there always seems to be more month than money. So if that's the case, then this webinar is for you.
It's for you. So, they said one thing, and I heard something totally different. You know, that's just the way it is.
Maybe you're like Tim and Kendra, who've been married for 5 years. They have 2 kids. He works full-time, she works part-time. Even the reverse might be true in your situation. But oftentimes they find themselves, or she finds herself constantly having to repeat herself, asking the same thing over and over of Tim, which causes her to feel frustrated and just ignored and overlooked and unappreciated. So if that's you, then this webinar is for you.
Yes, it is. Now, when you're feeling like you're just totally overwhelmed, everything and everyone is coming at you at one time, and your CPUs are just multi-threading and multi-processing as fast as it can go, but it's just not enough.
That's computer lingo for you have too much going on at the same time.
Exactly.
As a woman, sometimes we wear many hats. I mean, we can be the chauffeur, we can be the tutor helping the kids with the homework, we could be the chief financial officer helping with the bills, we could be the chef in the kitchen preparing the meals for the kids, you know, we could be the counselor helping nurture a teenage girl over a broken heart, or encouraging a teenage boy about when things don't work out well in sports.
Yes.
And if that resonates with you, then this webinar is for you.
Now, when you just can't let go of the past, because every time you turn around, that guy looks like your wife's ex-boyfriend, and they talk like him, and they walk like him, and you look at her and she be like, I ain't got nothing to do with it. When you just can't let go of that past, or is it something stupid that your husband said, which, you know, we've all done that.
Or maybe you're just like Mark and Gwen, who've been married for 7 years and they have, 3 kids. The husband had an affair 4 years ago that she's just still struggling to forgive him for. If you find yourself constantly, like my husband said, rehashing the past, meaning everything, just if you mention a certain state or a certain city, a certain place, it just sends off that trigger and kind of takes you back to that moment, that one moment in time where it seemed like your marriage was completely under attack, or it was just shattered. Then if that's the case, then this webinar is for you.
This is for you. When your sexual needs are not being met, and you got this good girl, she's just beautiful, smart, has everything on the checklist, and you just know she's gonna blow your mind in the bed. And then she's like, I don't know what to do. Or you say, baby, talk dirty to me. And she goes, mud, dirt. This webinar is for you.
Maybe you're like Isaac and Cheryl, where they're both 36 years of age. They've been together for 11 years and they have 1 child, but they've had multiple attempts at failed pregnancies. Now Cheryl is reluctant to be with her husband intimately because she fears becoming pregnant and there being another letdown, another sense of loss, another thing that's just going to just make her feel incomplete or unfulfilled as a wife and as a mom. If you're struggling, in the bedroom area, you're constantly rehashing that negative sexual experience. May have been molestation from your past. It could have been rape. It could have been, a failed pregnancy. and you find that sex with your spouse now becomes a source of frustration and something you tend to avoid now because it reminds you of something negative that happened in your past. And that constant frustration is causing division between the two of you. If that's the case, then this webinar is for you.
You may say, well, who is Eric and who's Sakeisha?
What's their story?
Our story is we've met 25 years ago in the highest of 7 hills in Florida, in Tallahassee, at Florida A&M University, in the parking lot, right next to Gaither Gym, for those who are alumni.
Are familiar with the Tallahassee area?
Yes, because I was backing out of the parking lot, coming from my study session. You know, I did study a little bit. And I saw this pretty girl with this big butt and a pretty smile, and this big AKA written all over the front of her shirt. And I was like, she's one of those sorority girls. But I said, hey, what's your name? And she said,
I rolled my eyes at first.
Long story short, that's when we met, 25 years ago.
Well, that's his version of what happened. Here's what really happened.
Oh, really?
You know, I was coming from class, but earlier that morning, I had this feeling. I kept hearing, be nice to everyone you meet today. I had recently, and we're transparent with you, I'd recently been in a bad relationship, and I had just pretty much given up on relationships and dating and just kind of didn't want to be bothered with anyone. And I heard specifically, be nice to everyone you meet today. So when I was coming from class and I'm, walking towards Gaither Gymnasium where I parked my car, a guy, a handsome guy with these beautiful eyes, he passed by.
Ooh, like beautiful eyes.
Yes, he's got beautiful eyes. And he passed by, and then he backs up his car, and then it reminded me of that trigger. I was just like, oh my gosh, something else negative to deal with, because I was still harboring that resentment in my heart. Sometimes we say, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, but deep down inside, you kind of bury that anger and resentment that you're feeling. Well, he backed up the car and started talking to me, and at first, like he said, hello, and I was just like, whatever. But I remembered again hearing, be nice to everyone you meet today. So I changed my demeanor and we had a conversation. We exchanged phone numbers, and it's been 25 plus years.
So 4 years later, we got married.
Uh-huh.
Now we have 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an engineer by day, and my wife is a pharmacist.
Yeah.
And she was born in New York and raised in South Carolina. And I was born in St. Petersburg, true Floridian, raised in a little small town called Fort Pierce. Well, anyway, she won't say nothing about Orangeburg.
Okay, yes, I'm from a small town as well.
And also, we are licensed financial advisors as well as certified John Maxwell speakers, teachers, coaches, and marriage facilitators as well.
Yeah, so we're bringing a host of experience to the table, but the truth is, all those titles and things, they're not really what drive us to do what we're doing. We're just like any other couple out there. We have hobbies. We like to have fun. And if you look at this picture, as you can see, this picture just kind of illustrates who we are. We live in Orlando, close to Disney. So the picture of the lady screaming, yeah, that's me.
That's her on
the
Thunder
time.
Mountain. That's the only roller coaster we go with.
Yeah, I like roller
Our
coasters,
kids,
but not high ones.
They go on all the ones that we just look at and say, I ain't going on that.
But we like to go to the parks and play tourists. You meet people from all over. Rarely do you meet anyone here from Orlando. So we're like any other couple. I don't want to say thrill junkies, but we like to have fun.
Staycations.
Yes, we'll go and stay at Disney and pretend like we have no idea where we are.
Our big why. Why? You say why?
Oh.
Well,
let me make sure I read this, because I wrote it down, and I'll make sure that I get this right.
okay.
Now, this is a quote from Barack Obama. It says, change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We're the ones that we've been waiting for. We're the change that we seek. And we say all that to say, and I'm sure you're probably wondering, what does that mean for me? Look, you can be used to do anything. Don't pigeonhole yourself into a box. Both of us are products of divorced families, meaning we didn't have a positive marriage to emulate. My mom married and divorced twice. My father-in-law,
What, 3 times?
married and divorced 3 times.
Yeah.
My grandfather, when he passed away at 94, was on his 4th marriage.
Wow.
You know, so, and my grandmother, she's still alive at 90, 93, 94, and she was on her 2nd marriage. So, successful marriage is not something that tends to run in our family line, but we are the ones that are going to be the change that we want to see. We're not waiting for another person. We're going to be that change. We're going to take hold of our marriage, and hopefully you come alongside us so we can walk through this marriage process together.
Yes, so life was good until the day that changed our life.
And that was over 10 years ago, but I swear to God, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I'm sure you're wondering, like, well, what happened 10 years ago?
What happened 10 years ago?
Well, a lot of times you might be thinking, oh, well, they had a baby, they got a new house, they got a new car. No, a little over 10 years ago, as a couple, we had to file for what?
Bankruptcy.
And I'm sure you're like, ooh, yeah, a pharmacist
Yeah.
and an engineer, all those titles and things under your name, you had to file bankruptcy?
Yep, we
Yep.
had multiple businesses at the time. We had a technology business with government contracts, and we had a UPS store.
Yeah.
So we were trying to do 3 and 4 different things. And it seemed like every bad thing that could happen, happened.
We kept winding up with more month than money.
Exactly.
And our businesses, it was draining us physically, it's draining us emotionally, it's draining us spiritually to the point where, you know, we were just worn out. But the good thing is that, as you can see, over 10 plus years later, we are still here.
Yes,
Our
we
marriage
are.
is intact. We were able to bounce back from bankruptcy. And it's a challenge. I mean, but the good thing is that challenges are things that are able to overcome. I mean, we literally had to rent for 8 years, and we moved 7 times. Count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Do you know how hard it is for a child to acclimate to move? If there's someone out there that's watching and you're in the armed services, or you have a job that constantly requires you to relocate,
Right.
do you know the impact it can have on your family? Our kids weren't really able to develop, you know, friendships because
Right.
we kept
Long
moving.
lasting.
Yeah, it's like next year we're gone. So it got to the point where they're like, no, we don't want to know the neighbors because next year we won't be here.
Yeah.
And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Mhm.
So that led us to what? Our proudest moment.
Right.
And you know what our proudest moment was?
We were able to build our dream house almost.
Yeah, and that's a blessing. Because a lot of times in marriage, things happen, and you feel like, I'll never be able to bounce back from this. I won't be able to, you know, overcome this. Yes, you can. Bankruptcy is not the end of the world. Relocating is not the end of the world. Job loss is not the end of the world. You can bounce back, and so can your marriage.
Yes.
So that's why we're here. Why we're determined to be that change that we want to see in our life. The marriage that is successful in our blood, you know, in our families.
Yes.
All right. So what we're going to do at this Marriage by Design webinar, we're going to talk about the 5 steps to a fulfilling marriage.
Yes.
So we want you guys to stick with us. This is going to be powerful. So are you ready?
Yes. So the first step is communication.
All right.
And it is defined as the open exchange of emotion, desires, and beliefs.
Now, you can take a couple, like one of the couples we worked with, William and Phyllis. They were both
Right.
about, what, 65, 66 years old?
Yeah.
Both of them on their 3rd marriage.
Oh, wow.
Now, Phyllis
3.
was from California and William was from Florida.
Yes.
After the wedding, guess what happened? Phyllis looks at William and says, look, are you ready to move your stuff into my place? And he's like, whoa, 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 hold up. Aren't you moving your things into my place? Time out. What does this tell you? This couple, after both being married, this is their 3rd marriage. What were they struggling with? Point number 1, communication. They were not communicating with
No,
one
not at all.
another. How you're going to tell me after the 3rd marriage, something is
They didn't learn from the first mistake. They
Yeah.
didn't learn from the second mistake. And it looks like they didn't learn from the third one.
Now, don't get us wrong. We're not here to judge anyone. Everyone makes mistakes. A marriage is a learning process, but our goal is to help you. If you're struggling in that area, if you feel that you and your spouse are not on the same page, this webinar is for you because we're going to help you in that aspect. Make sense?
Reach out for help so you
Yeah.
don't repeat
Yeah.
or start going in cycles.
So one of our first points, as far as communication and building that first pillar, is number one, express what you expect.
Express
Your
what you
spouse
expect.
cannot meet a need that they don't even know exists. And I know it's very easy. Sometimes as women, we're natural born. We try to anticipate the needs of our family. We try to anticipate the needs of the husband. Try to anticipate the needs of the children. And nothing against the men, because sometimes in some relationship, it might be, the roles might be reversed. You
And
know?
we can't read their minds.
No, they're not mind readers. So we have to express to them, this is my expectation from you. So that's point number one. If you're taking notes under communication, express what you expect. Have a conversation. Your boss, when you go and you have a job, this is what you're being paid to do. Our expectation is you're supposed to be here before 9. You don't leave before 5. You go to lunch at 12. You be back at 12:30. You're to answer phone calls. You're to complete reports. Make sense? Same thing. Just as hard as you're going to work on your job, you need to do that in your marriage. Have those conversations and make sure the two of you are on the same page.
Yes.
So be mindful. Effective communication is a skill that requires continual practice. If you truly desire to improve your communication in your relationship, there are going to be 3 keys. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Point number 1 is what?
Communication.
Yeah, but the first part of communication is going to be?
Consistency.
That's going to be the first key.
Also, wear your glasses so you can see.
All right, consistency is key.
Yes.
I mean, it's imperative to be mindful of the thoughts when you're attempting to communicate with your significant other, but you need to be consistent.
Right.
One moment you want to tell them what you want, the next moment you want them to figure it out, the next moment you're using your eyes to tell them what you want.
Oh, God.
I'm guilty. I've been there. I've done that. I've done the eye roll, the neck roll, and all of that other good stuff. But we had to learn that was not an effective tool in our marriage.
Yes.
Simply expressing what we expect. Now, when you express it, make sure you do it in a respectful manner. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to do this and that. That's not necessary. It really isn't. And it winds up being more distracting and causes them to build up a wall like, I really don't want to hear this today. Make sense?
You have to have some respect for each other. Respect each other and how you communicate to them. Because you don't want them to disrespect you, so you do not disrespect them. So RESPECT.
Oh my goodness.
That's what it means to me.
All right, so that first key was consistency. When that second key in the communication is confirmation.
Confirmation.
You need to be mindful of how you're breaking down what your spouse is saying to you. Make sure you confirm that you've even heard it properly. Sometimes we hear a little snippet and automatically those walls go up, the eyes start to roll, you shut down. It's like you're in a world all of your own.
So therefore, we must repeat back what we thought they heard, I mean what we heard from them. And then they will say, yes, that's it, that's exactly it. Or they say, you weren't listening.
Yeah. So that gives you an opportunity to confirm what they heard. And guess
Exactly.
what? That leads you to the third key, which is clarity. That gives you the opportunity to clarify at that moment if that's what you were trying to communicate to them.
Right.
You don't want to, we want you to avoid what we refer to, and make sure you're taking notes, the jump rope mentality. Yeah, because you're just sitting there like double dutch, just ready to jump in.
Waiting for a pause.
Yeah.
Because they just go on and on and on and on. And, you know, that's why we have to let the women know, look, we can't comprehend all those sentences and paragraphs. So can you break it down and give me an overview? And so that's why we can say pause.
Okay. So usually with the couples, we've given you 3 keys for communication, their consistency, confirmation, and clarity. So after that, we have an assignment for you guys to implement, because we want to make sure that you're not just hearing what we're saying, but we're applying what we're saying. So this is what we use when we're working with different couples. So one of the things is you schedule a time somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour for the two of you to meet. Remember, you schedule appointments for you when you're your job, or if you're a business owner, you schedule appointments with your clients. So schedule that time in. And we want you to take a piece of paper for each of you and write down 3 things. No more than 3 things that are really, really bothering you in this relationship. You write them down, and you're going to stick to those 3 things only. Your spouse is going to do the same thing. Now, there are going to be some rules that we're going to make sure we go over with it. It's the 3 things that are bothering you the most in the relationship. And why do we limit it to 3? Because what happens, women, we're communicators. Doesn't always mean we're effective at it, but we will go, instead of you come in with 3, we'll leave with 33. And nothing will get resolved. Let's just be honest. Yeah. Now, the tables may be turned. It could be the husband that isn't, like that. But a lot of times the wives, we might say, hey, and it doesn't get resolved. If you stick to 3 and those 3 points only, you can handle it. You can't eat a whole elephant at a time. You do 1 bite at a time. Yeah. Take 3 little bites. You chew it and process those. Get that resolved before you go forward. Make sense? Makes sense. So you'll take some time. You'll talk uninterrupted, or he can go first, whichever ones you decide. And
right, 2 to 3 toppings, right?
And then you will each come up with a resolution, at least 3 options, right, of how you can deal with that going forward. Put it in writing to make sure you're on one accord. So that way it's like, I thought you said, no, I thought you said, no, put it in writing. And the 2 of you guys decide, okay, we're going to start with option 1 first. And you implement that for a period of time. It could be a week or 2 weeks, up to you. And see how well that works at resolving that issue. Right. If it doesn't work, then go back to the drawing board, get your paper, and go to choice number 2 and start working on that. But you know what we want you to take away from this is that both of you guys are contributing, so it doesn't feel like it's a one-sided thing. Both partners are specifying what he or she's going to do to help bring a resolution to the challenges that you're facing in this situation. Make sense?
So come with an open heart, and come with sincerity.
Yeah. So we have some do's and don'ts. Number 1, no cell phones. No social media at any time. You need to give your wife or your husband your undivided attention. Okay? 2, don't interrupt them while they're speaking. Right. Let them finish getting off their chest what they're going to do within their allotted time frame. It can't be 6 hours, because some of us can be long-winded. And don't stray from the 2 to 3 topics that you guys have listed on your paper. And last but most importantly, do not attempt to read your partner's mind or assume you know what they're thinking. The whole goal of this exercise is to better your relationship. That means the conversations have to take place and listening has to occur. Correct?
Yes.
So like my husband said, do come with an open heart. Do take notes. Do be specific. Do listen without being defensive. And do use more I statements instead of you statements. Because it comes off as you're just pointing the finger. But when you're pointing one finger, how many fingers are actually pointing back at you? So we're going to own up to our own contributions to this challenge, but then we're going to both come up with resolutions on how to fix it. Is that all right?
Yes. The next section is finances.
Now, financial stability in a relationship can mean different things to different people. I mean, the key thing is that for the husband and the wife to agree or be on the same page of what that picture looks like for them. I mean, for one couple, financial stability might be what? Owning a home, owning a car, taking vacations, taking
not
bills
living
paid.
paycheck to paycheck, having at least 6 to 8 months of emergency funds set aside.
Yes.
Able to have funds to do vacations.
Okay.
So that's some of the things.
So let's take Lisa and Todd. Lisa's 46 and Todd is 50, and they're on their first marriage. But they found themselves in a financial bind. It was close to Christmas time, and Todd lost his job.
That's Scrooge all the way.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're wondering, Sakeisha, why are you guys telling us all this? Because guess what? People have challenges in their marriages.
And it
The
happens.
unexpected can happen, but you need to be able to expect the unexpected. So Tom
Plan.
lost his job.
Plan.
And he had difficulty finding stable employment for about 3 years. Now, he worked diligently to get his own business off the ground, but it was draining the family financially. So guess what? Lisa had to pick up the slack. And you're trying to take care of the kids. You're trying to take care of the family. You want to be encouraging to your spouse who's going through a rough time. So your income is cut in half. What do you think how that impacted their sex life or their communication? Because guess what? One's physically drained, the other one's emotionally drained.
No finance, no romance.
But guess what? The bank started threatening to garnish his wife's wages for a vehicle that had already been repossessed. So it just added more salt to the wound.
Yeah, they already took your car. Now they still want to take your money. Man.
Yeah. So his attorney said the only option left was to file for bankruptcy. And it was right before Christmas. And they were heartbroken. They had no idea how are you going to explain to your young kids right before Christmas, Mommy and Daddy had to file bankruptcy.
Santa Claus wasn't coming this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's something for adults we can understand, but kids, it can be more challenging. So they got hit with a hard lesson. Now for you, it may not be bankruptcy per se. It may be a job loss. It may be sickness or something that's thrown you off. So they had to learn you can't keep up with the Joneses.
Life happens.
Yeah, and everybody's situation may be different, but just make sure that the two of you guys are on the same page when it comes to finances. There's certain principles that married couples should implement in their marriages. Make sense?
Makes sense.
One point would be just small lies about your finances can lead to damaging behaviors down the line, meaning you can run into that situation. Well, guess what? If you've been spending more money than you should be,
So you got to tell the truth.
and then your spouse loses his job or her job, then how do you come back and tell them that?
Yeah, you got to tell the truth. So charges end up hitting the accounts you never seen before. And
But the reason, a lot of times the reasons why people may lie is because they feel guilt. They're fearful. They want to maintain control. But we want you guys to take away from this conversation the fact that it's never too late to have a conversation with your spouse about your finances, whether you've been in a relationship 10 weeks, 10 months, or 10 years. The first step involves having that conversation. That's why that first pillar is communication. And the second one is making sure you're on one accord with your finances. Don't be afraid to reach out for help or implement what we call the B word.
The B word, budget.
Budget.
And it's simple.
Yeah.
You write down all your expenses on the left side, all your income on the right side. If your expenses are more than your income, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Therefore, you need to budget.
And it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's something that we all need to learn. I mean, some people may be excelling in the budgeting, but they may not be excelling in other areas of their marriage. So
first thing you need to talk about, right, and establish, what did your parents teach you about money?
Yes.
Maybe you've witnessed or even experienced them not telling you anything, or maybe they just tell you, look, you just take care of your household. That's at least what my wife told me that she learned from her parents.
Yeah.
So you need to talk about it. Yeah. You need to be able to say, what are your financial goals, sweetheart? What do you want to accomplish? We want to talk about, first we want to say, well, we're going to have children, we want a home, what type of home, where you want to live, vacations, how often you want to do vacations. You want to plan about your children's future for education, retirement. So those things you have to talk about.
Find out about their fears about money. I mean, how many times have you heard, it's going to be our secret. We're not going to tell Daddy about the shoes. We're not going to tell Daddy about this. One of the next things is to make sure you schedule regular money meetings, preferably once a week until your finances are under control. And make sure it's done prior to payday. You don't want a payday frenzy trying to figure out what needs to be paid when, Share with your spouse any feelings you have about being lied to or being dishonest when you're with your finances. There are a few keys that you need to be transparent about.
Yes, you need to be straightforward. If you, because guilt will come in, and that's when you don't tell about things, maybe overspending, hiding expenses. And so you got to be realistic about it. Also, your expectations. Because one person may come in and they can expect that they can just spend. And one may be a saver, so they don't want to spend anything. So those things we got to come out and we have to be open and honest about. So you also have to consider the following as an option. Set up separate checking accounts. That way, she can have a spending, like an expense account, he can have an expense account. And that way, you don't really have to worry about the details of each other's account, because you say, well, we set up this, put $500 here, $500 there. You can go and spend it on anything you want and don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And then we always suggest having a joint account to pay for the bills, the mortgage or the rent, the lights, the cable, phone, but you guys allot a certain amount of money, $50 per pay period, $70 per pay period, whatever the case may be. So if you need to get your necessities, if you need your new pair of shoes, you need you some Bath and Body Works, you need to get nails done, then it's not a huge argument, because that becomes a huge obstacle in many households. Women want to take care of themselves and the husband's like, you're spending too much. So if you put that amount of a little bit aside each month, you can have those funds to do what you need to do without there being a big argument, without you having to hide anything.
And you have to agree on this. You must sit down and you must talk about it. You have to agree on the amounts, agree on the accounts, agree. And so also too, what works for maybe Sakeisha and Eric may not work for you. So we have one account, a joint account, and we don't have separate accounts. Sure. We have joint accounts. And then the only other accounts we have are for our children, because we're teaching them about finance. But like I said earlier, you may just have to have separate accounts. One account for her, one account for him, and you have one account that's joint that you set aside for paying bills.
Yeah. And that way you can avoid having more month than money. A lot of times, even one of the recent Pew studies showed that one of the greatest reasons why people get married is because of finances. And that's a huge concern. They said for adults, about 31% reported that money was the major source of conflict in their relationship.
Yes.
So just implementing these minor tips, and you may be wondering, oh, this has nothing to do with me. My money's overflowing, and that could be your case. But not every couple in America is like that. There are some that are struggling. There are some that are paycheck to paycheck. And if so, this webinar is for you. A lot of times, even though there's an article on Forbes.com,
right,
where over half of all financial cheaters, so to speak, they admitted,
58% actually.
Yeah, they admitted to hiding cash and minor purchases, and 30% of them said they've hidden a bill. About 16% of them have hidden a major purchase. Not exactly sure how you can hide a major purchase.
Right? Well, I went and bought a Benz today.
They have secret bank accounts, and about 11% of them were even dishonest about the amount of debt they were in. Now be mindful, when the two of you come together, that debt it becomes you. It's going to impact you in some way, shape, or form.
Yep. So that leads us up to, what I was saying earlier. When you don't have any finances, there's a lack of romance, sex.
Which is pillar number 3. So I hope you have your pen and your paper handy, okay?
Husbands and wives often have very different expectations and desires when it comes to sexual intimacy. The idea of talking about sex with your spouse can often be intimidating or very uncomfortable, to say the least. Because one spouse may be very sexually active before they got together, and the other, they may be a good girl or just very inexperienced. So if you don't talk about it, you don't know or what the others is expecting.
And you know what? We get it. that it can be an uncomfortable situation. You may be thinking, I don't want them to know what my sexual history was. And then the other one might be thinking, if she knows how many women I've been with, she will run for the hills.
Yeah.
And the roles might be reversed, you know? But the truth is, you need to be able to be open and discuss your likes in regards to sex, your dislikes, and your expectations. When we said express what you expect, sex is a part of that. How often are you going to have sex? What type of sex are you going to have?
Right.
That's a mandatory conversation, you know?
And you got to talk about oral sex.
And that's the thing. You have lots of people, and yes, we're active in ministry, but the thing is, this is the conversation that you need to have. That's a part of marriage. It may be an acceptable practice, and some may not be. But don't, have your spouse kind of playing the guessing game. Yes, I'm willing to try this. No, I'm not. But
That could be a deal breaker.
have that conversation. Because one person may be very, very experienced, while the other person may be not as experienced.
You got to talk about the different spots.
Yes.
The G spot.
Uh-huh.
The erogenous zones.
Uh-huh. I don't know, does anyone else notice his face light up on this section?
Yeah.
So just me? Okay. All right. Okay. But the truth is, when you come into a relationship, the both of you guys are bringing your own baggage, your own past sexual history,
Right.
or lack thereof. And hopefully neither one of you have experienced any type of sexual trauma, which could definitely be a trigger point in your relationship and impact the two of you coming together.
This is why you need to speak about it.
Yeah.
And be honest and open. Because you don't know. You may go to touch your spouse and then go to flinching and then become frigid frantic. They're just like, so frigid, and so stiff. They can't enjoy sex. And it's because they didn't tell the other spouse about that trauma or that drama that they experienced in their past. And that's why you have to be open and honest and talk about it. If that is the case, then you need to go and get some counseling for that so you can deal with and how to deal with that trauma.
Now, this webinar is not going to allow us to go in depth, but we did want to go over real quickly 7 key challenges to sexual intimacy in marriages today. And you and your spouse need to have that much needed conversation about it. When we tell you, when we talk about communication, we're saying that your spouse should be your best friend. You should be open and honest with them about your past. You're committing to spend the rest of your life with this person.
Right.
Okay, hiding it is not going to change it. It may come out later on, and you need to give them that opportunity to, be able to voice whether it's a deal breaker or not. So we're going to go real quickly for those that are taking notes, because this is a whole nother teaching in and of itself, a whole nother webinar.
Oh, yes.
But I'll go through the 7 points really quickly. So the 7 key challenges to sexual intimacy in a marriage. Number 1 is your past sexual history. What works for one spouse may not work for the other,
Right.
which means what turned her on may not do a doggone thing for me.
No threesomes.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, so that's one of the first key challenges, your past sexual history. Number 2, putting sex last on your to-do list.
Not first.
And the fact is, if we can be honest with you, that may be the case. Sometimes things happen. You get a promotion on your job, your responsibilities change, you have a child that needs more of your attention. We have a teenager now that's getting ready to apply for colleges, so she's been pulling on me more and more. But I have to learn to say, hold up, we need some mommy daddy time. And it's okay to do that,
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Makes
All right,
sense.
and that was actually point number 3, your children. That can be a barrier in and of itself.
Another thing you got to talk about too, which is very common
Yes.
and people don't talk about it at all, is pornography.
Yes.
Pornography brings up a lot of unrealistic images and ideas about sex. You think that you can do this, you can do that, and it's just supposed to be like this, it's supposed to be like that, it's supposed to sound like this, it's supposed to sound like that.
Supposed to last this long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is just unrealistic. and
Okay.
will get you thinking this is how it's supposed to be, and it's not.
And it's putting unnecessary pressure on your spouse because they feel like they need to live up to this grandiose expectation that you have.
Exactly.
But another point is abuse.
Abuse.
Especially if you have a spouse that's been abused in the past. You know, when it comes to sexual intimacy, they might become frigid, frantic, because
Right.
it's a trigger point for them. So you need to have those conversations.
And then, like we were talking about earlier, misconceptions about sex.
Yeah.
And that's what pornography will bring into it.
Yeah, how often, you know, what are you expecting versus what am I expecting? You expecting once a week, she's expecting 3 times a day, you know?
And then there may be some physical issues,
Yeah.
discomforts and stuff. So that's where you have to visit your doctor and also, talk and be open and honest with your physician.
Yeah, so one of the things that when you leave those doors, when you leave those areas undiscussed, it
Right.
opens the door for opportunities for there to be extramarital affairs. Not saying that that's a valid reason to have one. We are not saying that in any way, shape, or form, but just for you to know that, hey, there's an issue in the marriage and it needs to be resolved, and we want to know why. You know, or give yourself that opportunity to try to prevent something like that from happening, okay?
So therefore, we need to find out what pleases our spouse.
Yeah.
So we give all this,
Assignment. It's a
Assignment.
homework
and
assignment.
she loves it. I'm gonna let her do it this time.
Wow, I get to do the assignment. All right. Well, usually with all of our couples that we work with, your assignment at the end of this section, you go home, the two of you are to spend a day alone in the bed together. Take a shower first.
And take all your
Clothes
clothes
off.
Because it's getting hot and cold. So take off all your clothes. Okay, go ahead.
Stick to the relationship part. Let somebody else do the singing. But you're to do 3 things, and those 3 things are what, honey?
You're gonna do kiss, suck, and lick. You can
Each-
start from the top and work your way down, or from your toes and work your way all the way up.
And the reason we ask you to do this is because you need to learn how to explore your partner's body. Understand what brings them pleasure and what brings them displeasure. So you're pretty much taking the guesswork out of those intimate moments. If
Right.
you know my spouse is stimulated when I touch the back of their neck, then you do that. If you know that kissing them on the cheek is not a turn on,
Right.
then you stay away from it.
That's right.
You know, it takes the guesswork. So
No
that way
looking in the ears.
you avoid the monotony of doing
Right.
the same thing over and over and over again and your spouse becoming bored. You have spaces from here all the way down to work with. You know what works well
Kiss,
and what
suck,
doesn't
and
work
lick.
well. So,
Kiss, suck, and lick.
and he said that I really enjoy talking about this section. I think we can tell who enjoys talking about this section the
Oh
most.
yeah.
All right. So one of the most common reasons given overall, let me read this note to you, for women to disconnect in sexual intimacy, number 1 was stress and anxiety. An overwhelming 58% of women said stress and anxiety causes them to shut down in the sexual intimacy department. The next one is like lack of enough arousal or stimulation. And then not enough time, you know? Sometimes women struggle with things like negative body images or
Yes.
pain or irritation during sex. And if that's the case, make sure you check with your doctor to see if there's some other underlying issues going on. Okay? So now we're going to delve into pillar number 4. All right? You got your homework assignment.
Yes.
So I want some feedback on that one. Okay? So pillar number 4 is what?
Faith.
Faith.
You gotta have faith.
Okay, he really wants to be a singer, and I'm encouraging him,
All
but I'm
right,
encouraging
all
him
right.
to do it at home.
So
But-
having trust or confidence in someone or something is faith.
All right, and I found this quote online, and let me make sure I get my notes and read it to you. Faith is taking the first step even when you can't see the whole staircase. Meaning, there's got to be an element of faith in your relationship, because we won't always be able to see everything. We won't be able to map out and plan everything, but you have got to have faith that God's going to see you through it, you know?
Yes. Now, being a man of faith, I had to trust in God because Lord knows I don't know everything. And all I could do is trust in Him, and He would connect me with others that I can glean from and learn from and go to for advice.
Yeah.
And so it hadn't always been easy because everybody expects the man to just know it all.
Right.
And then, especially a man of God, when you're teaching or you're preaching or ministering to others, that expectation of them just knowing and hearing from God all the time, they're just so wise. But anyway, so that's where that faith comes in. I have to have faith and I have to go and tap into the inner Holy Spirit.
Yeah. A lot of times being a man of faith and just being a husband in and of itself is pure on-the-job training.
Yes, it is.
And also being a wife. I mean, we're hoping that this webinar will help give you a glimpse, give you some tools and strategies on how to be more effective in those areas that pertain to you. Because I know we had to trust God to break the negative baggage from our individual past and to help us shape new mindsets, that will help us to be more effective. For me to be a more effective wife and for him to be a more effective husband.
Especially when all we've experienced in the past was divorce from looking at our parents.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about Christian marriages, oh man, so they're not designed to be boring. Because every time you see, the going to church, they just, we go to church sometimes and we see couples and we're like, are they married? Or we meet somebody and say, oh, that's my husband, well, that's my wife. Oh, I didn't know that.
Together?
They don't hold hands, they're not lovey-dovey, don't kiss each other. So it's, just because you're a Christian and you believe in God, don't mean you have to be bored.
Yep. And some of the times, being a man or a woman of faith can sometimes make one spouse feel unnecessary pressure to be perfect.
Try something new, role reversal.
Yeah, meaning, let your husband, some of the things that you normally do, he'll do, and vice versa. Just to kind of figure out, okay, how is he feeling? Put yourself in their shoes. Exercise your faith. Meaning with faith, it's taking that first step, even when you can't see the whole staircase. Because faith you'll be challenged sometimes, because things won't always work out the way you plan, but you have still got to exercise your faith.
Yes. Now that also leads to, you have a lot of faith, but just because we have faith and we're men and women of God does not mean we're perfect. We make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And when we make mistakes, we got to have what is our next pillar. We got to have what?
Pillar number 5, forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Forgiveness is an essential tool in any marital relationship. So when a person is able to walk in forgiveness, he or she recognizes that everyone does make mistakes. No relationship can withstand long periods of time without forgiveness.
Wow. I mean, being able to forgive is crucial if your marriage is to extend for the long haul. Forgiveness has to be an intentional act. It's not saying that you condone what's happened, but it's saying that you're not going to hold that over their head.
Right.
So if my husband has said or done something that's offended me, I'm not going to, every time I see him and he walks in the room, you did that before. You said that before. You're forgiving, but you're not. I'm not asking you to forget, but don't keep bringing it up. How are you going to heal and move forward if you keep running around in that same circle?
It'd be great if you could forget it, because then you won't bring it up again. But
yeah, but to use wisdom. If something is becoming a pattern, then you start to have those necessary conversations, saying, "Hey, you've kind of done this about 10 times now, and I've forgiven you, but something has to change." So make sure that you guys have those conversations. So
perhaps your spouse has also allowed others to input or give their opinions that impact decisions that the two of you are supposed to make. So
strap on my seatbelt for
oh
this
gosh. So the Bible clearly states in Matthew 19:5 that a man is to leave his father and his mother and to be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh.
Yeah.
Nowhere does it state that the two of them are to make exceptions and include the thoughts and opinions of family members or friends, as we often do sometimes. Perhaps you have found yourself in the same situation when we have in-laws or best friends that like to come in and try and run your household, tell you what you're supposed to do. But you know, it comes from the upbringing. You know, like my wife, when her father told her, look, you know, she's supposed to run her household. And in my family, I never really saw too much of them talking about making decisions in the household and finances, because you know they were divorced on and off. But you explain your experience.
Well, you know what? That might not be the exact situation for you. Like my husband said, my father was a warden at Rikers Island. Real strong upbringing. Everything was kind of dotted I's, crossed T's to the letter according to the rules. And what the advice he gave was based on his experiences. Now, mind you, he was divorced from my mom as well. So you have to be able to judge and be mindful of who you allow to speak into your life and over your marriage, and make sure that they're qualified to do so. Just because they're mom and dad, they're as amazing parents as they may be, they may not be very good husbands and wives. So you have to be mindful of who you reach out to in that aspect. Now, the two of you have to be able to make these decisions together. You have to be able to establish boundaries and boundaries and borders that don't need to be crossed by your in-laws and family members or friends. Yes. Because the two of you have become one. We have to be mindful of things. It's great to have girl chat and talk with your friends and stuff, but you have to be mindful and use wisdom. Exercise wisdom in regards to how much information you are revealing to your friends and your family. Because you know what? At the end of the day, the two of you, let's just say the two of you having a disagreement. You run to your sister crying and, oh, he said this and that. And guess what? Your sister gets upset. Your mother gets upset. Now everyone, whenever they see him, they're looking at him out the side of his eye, giving him the evil eye. And guess what? The two of you worked it out and
gone on life, and they still holding on to that anger and that one point where you came to them crying and being upset. So that's why keep your business to yourselves.
Yeah. And be mindful that forgiveness is more for you than for them, because you're harboring that unforgiveness in your heart, and that can impact you physically. Studies have even shown that a lot of people that have some medical illnesses, a lot of it's due to unforgiveness that they're harboring in their heart. So you gotta sometimes learn to let go. That doesn't mean that you'll become a doormat and allow somebody to walk all over you. That's not what we're saying, but you're saying you have to forgive in order to move forward. Okay? Make sense?
Makes sense.
Unforgiveness can drain you physically. It can drain you emotionally.
And mentally.
Yes. And that's definitely not a good thing. All right? So, one of our key takeaways, we talked about the fact that forgiveness is a process. We talked about, choosing to let go and providing you guys with the tools to move forward. But we want you to be mindful that even though it can be a difficult task, it's not an impossible task. It doesn't mean that you're pretending that something hasn't happened. You're choosing to let go of the anger. You're choosing to let go of the resentment and the frustration, okay? So one of the things, your assignment or your takeaway is to ask for forgiveness in an effort to rebuild trust in a relationship. Be it that you were, sneaking money, or you may have said something that hurt or offended your spouse, or whatever the case may be. You have to choose to walk in forgiveness and make a commitment not to hurt your partner again by repeatedly inflicting the same hurtful behavior upon them. Okay, make sure that your apology is heartfelt, not I said I'm sorry. That does nothing. And be willing to get outside help if necessary, okay?
Okay.
All right.
So
we just want to thank you guys for spending this, last 45 minutes to an hour with us. So if you guys take out your cell phones right now and text the word marriage, MARRIAG, to the number 407-258-1246. We have a free gift for you.
Repeat that to them again.
Again, we want you to text the word marriage to the phone number 407-258-1246, and we have a free gift waiting for you. Now, we have a special invitation for you. everyone out there that took time out of their busy schedules to just spend some time with us on this webinar. We want to continue to keep this conversation going. So we want to introduce you to what? Our
Marriage Can Win Academy.
Okay, and I'm sure you're wondering, what is this Marriage Can Win Academy and what does this do? What part of the Marriage Can Win Academy is going to help you prosper in your marriage and relationship? And I'm sure you're wondering, well, does this work for me? Say, I've read the books, I've been to seminars, I've hired coaches and trainers, and you want to know, will this work for you? Guess what?
Absolutely.
Because we're the original students of this.
Yes.
We've learned over the past 20 plus years what it's like to help have a marriage that wins. So first, we want to invite you to join the winning team. So go over to www.marriagecanwinacademy.com to find out what it's all about. You know, you can head there right now. Now, I'm sure you may be wondering, is there an investment? Absolutely. But we're going to do something very special for you. We got a really, really special offer for you guys tonight. And we can't wait to share it with you.
Yes.
So should we tell them what they're going to get?
Of course.
All right. First, they're going to get this Marriage Can Win Academy. That's where we're going to have all our recordings. We have all our audios. That's where all of our content is going to be. We're going to be talking about so many things, and then you're going to be involved in what we call the Marriage Can Win Mastermind, where it's like a bi-weekly group conference call that takes place. 2 weeks we'll kind of pour into you, and then you'll have 2 weeks to implement what we're teaching you. Okay, and it's going to take place via phone call. So there's going to be a lot of teaching and training, and you're going to be doing homework, kind of like the sex assignment, the forgiveness assignment. It's always going to be something that you can apply directly to your relationship, not something you got to figure it out. We're going to give you the tools and strategies, and then you're going to implement them, which makes it so powerful. So you're going to learn something, you're going to do something. You're going to learn something, you're going to do something. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Now, some of the topics we're going to be covering will be how to bounce back from bankruptcy, how to overcome infidelity, how to rebuild trust, the 7 barriers to the unfulfilling sex life like we talked about earlier, all of that and more. Marriage and mental health,
Complementing versus competing.
Yes, that's going to be
how to overcome sexual barriers.
Yeah, there's so much more. Next, you can become a part of the Marriage Can Win Network, which is our private community. We're going to get in there. We're going to be supporting one another, answering questions.
Yes.
We'll have special trainings. We might even have some special pop-up sales. We will.
Yes.
And then we'll have the marriage idea of the week, things to constantly utilize, to constantly pour into your marriage to help your marriage can win. And we'll even have the Marriage Can Win live event. So those that are members, they get exclusive access. Okay? You'll get a general admission ticket if you're a member of this group.
Right.
So you don't want to miss this.
Conferences and seminars, we have them all the time. We just had one like a year ago, and we have some upcoming one. Finance seminars.
Yeah.
We're having them like on a regular basis.
Yeah, and that's because our mission is to help educate, empower, and encourage couples on how to win in their marriage.
Yes.
So you're going to get a whole bunch of things. But guess what?
Private accountability group. You also will be a part of that as well.
We're going to do it for those of you that are willing to take action right now. Right now, go and click on the screen. We have another bonus for you, what we call the fast action bonuses. And we're going to sweeten the pot for you.
Yes.
You're going to become a member of our Marriage Can Win Jumpstart program, which is going to be phenomenal. You'll be able to be a part of the founding members of this Jumpstart program, which is going to, I hate to say off the chain, because I hate it when my kids say that, but it's going to be off the chain. Not only the Jumpstart program, we'll be talking about, we have the Marriage Can Win Roundtable, where we'll meet quarterly, and we're going to talk about what's been working for us over the past 90 days, and then we'll put together a plan for the next 90 days. So you're constantly being poured into and have tools and strategies to help your marriage to win, and it's going to be so exciting.
And then we have the Marriage Can Win Retreat.
once a year. And that's
Yes.
going to be powerful because, you know, the Jumpstart program and the roundtable, those can all be done virtually because all of you guys are from across the globe. Not everyone is here in Florida. You're Georgia, all different states. But then we'll come together once a year at
We
that.
have a special offer.
Yeah, guess what? But just a reminder, the retreat is going to be a little bit different from the live event. I mean, we're going to get down deep. The retreat, we're going to be in our own private location.
Right.
And guess what? Since you are taking fast action right now, you're going to get it. I know you're waiting for the price. I know you're crying and sweating like, oh my gosh. But guess what? It's going to be a shade under $100. This is over $8,000 worth of tools that you're going to get for a minimum, a $97 investment to get started. Now, it's not going to remain that way. You guys are getting in on the ground level as a founding members.
Yes.
So $97 is the initial investment. And after that, $97 every 30 days because you're going to constantly be poured into.
Yes.
Now, there are two ways you can do this. You can do it the hard way, which is to basically just keep doing what you're doing. And we're sure you guys are going to be successful. You have been thus far. You may have hit some pitfalls along the way. It had some minor bumps and bruises, but we're sure you're going to be just fine. But guess what we did? We went out of the way. We created a path to help you ensure that your marriage can win. So the road is going to be smoother now. So that's the easy way.
Yeah.
So you can take advantage of that special offer, $97 down and $97 a month for the founding members. Because be mindful, as prices go up, they're not going to remain the same. But our final thoughts in closing would be, we want to thank you guys. You know, it takes a lot to spend time with a couple, listen to us, tease one another, but to honestly to teach you guys and to pour into your marriages, to open up and be transparent. But you guys are amazing. You guys are like incredible. And we just want to thank you so much for showing up on tonight. So we appreciate every single one of you, and we encourage you to take advantage of it. Go to marriagecanwinacademy.com. Take advantage of the special offer. Don't forget to text that phone number for your free gift. And with that being said, God bless you all and good night.
Good night.
Talk to you soon.